Good morning, everyone. My name is Giovanni Veronesi. I'm professor of biostatistics at the University of Insubria in Varese, Italy. And I thank the organizer for the opportunity to present here today our work on social inequalities in cardiovascular disease. In Europe, inequalities in cardiovascular diseases are quite widespread across most populations and still corresponds to a large part of the average event rate, both in terms of coronary heart disease and in terms of stroke, such that low education can be seen as an as an accelerator of the cumulative risk of incidence cardiovascular diseases. The putative mechanisms investigated are the so-called differential exposure in green, according to which less educated individuals have a higher disease risk because they are more exposed to risk factors. However, this mechanism accounts for less than 0.5% of the social inequalities in disease, such that people started focusing on an additional mechanism named differential vulnerability or susceptibility in purple, according to which the people in a lower socioeconomic position are more frail to the effects that risk factors have on disease outcome. There are two open questions in terms of differential susceptibility. The first one, is this real? What is the biological rationale, or is it just an artifact due to measurement error, for instance? And the second question is, are we able to contemporarily estimate and disentangle the differential exposure and differential susceptibility contribution to the difference in health outcome across socioeconomic positions? To answer to the first question, so we start focus on the concept of allostatic load, which is a measure of the physiological cost resulting from exposure to repeated or chronic stress, which eventually lead individuals to lose their ability to adapt to chronic stress. And this very complex theoretical pathways puts allostatic load in the position of a mediator between socioeconomic position on health, and at the same time it is determined by the differential exposure to different to a number of different risk factors. So we look at the presence of differential susceptibility in these two pathways. The red one, according to which there may be a disproportionate accumulation of allostatic load in lower SEP, socioeconomic position people. And in pathway 2, there may be this differential susceptibility in the effect that allostatic load has on health in lower socioeconomic position people. To investigate these two pathways at the same time, we took advantage of the Morgan Biomarker Consortium and of 54,000 individuals recruited in 21 European cohorts, representative of 9 different populations. And pathway 1 configures as a cross-sectional design in which education is exposure, allostatic load score is the outcome, and the mediators are smoking and alcohol intake. The same individuals were then followed up for 10 years or more on follow-up, and so pathway 2 configures as a longitudinal design in which again exposure is the education, outcome is coronary heart disease incidence, and allostatic load score now is the mediator. And we use two different counterfactual approaches to contemporarily estimate differential exposure and susceptibility. For pathway 1, we choose the Oaxaca blind decomposition for the difference in mean allostatic load between low and high education. And in this decomposition, the green side of the equation is interpreted in terms of differential exposure, while the purple one is interpretable in terms of differential susceptibility. And beta is the regression from linear regression model linking mediators to allostatic load. For pathway 2, instead, we choose the van der Waals three-way decomposition on the absolute difference in coronary heart disease cumulative risk between low and high education using marginal structural models and all cumulative risk model. And in both cases, we perform such sensitivity analysis to assess residual confounding through simulations. Results from pathway 1, we were able to confirm an educational class gradient in allostatic load, both in men and in women. Differential exposure accounted for a minor 6 to 7% of the gradient, while in men, 42% of the gradient was attributable to differential susceptibility. This result was quite robust to unmeasured confounders with the same characteristics of age or neighborhood deprivation. For pathway 2, the total effect of low education is on 246 additional coronary heart disease events per 100,000 person years in men, 157 additional events in women. A poor indirect effect that can be interpreted in terms of differential exposure accounts for 16 and 28% of the total effect in men and women, respectively, while the mediated interaction, which is interpretable in terms of differential susceptibility, accounted for a much lower proportion. But again, these results were robust to a measured confound. Study strength is the opportunity to assess a very complete and complex theoretical framework, taking advantage of a large sample size with harmonized data on exposure, mediators, and outcomes, and the use of modern counterfactual approaches to estimate DE and TS. Limitations are the lack of primary mediators in our allostatic load score, cross-sectional design, and the limited number of behavioral mediators for the educational allostatic load pathway, a single mediator model for the for what we call the pathway 2. And of course, our research is based on observational studies, and so it requires caution in the causal interpretation of our findings, although sensitivity analysis strengthen the confidence on the robustness of our results. So at the very end, we found evidence for the effect of differential exposure to allostatic load on coronary heart disease incidence, and also of a differential susceptibility in less educated men, which may be subject to a disproportionate accumulation as compared to their exposure to behavioral risk factors. And the bottom line is that counterfactual methods can really be used to let our research on social inequalities make a great step forward in our understanding of the roots of these inequalities. Special thanks to the working group on these useful references if you are interested in our work, and also contacts if you need to send questions, comments, or whatever. Thank you for your attention, and have a good day.